Well, good Sunday morning, everyone, and thank you for watching Beyond the Headlines. Well, a new year, a new start to define city priorities, and it began with a trip to the state capitol. Earlier this month, a delegation of city leaders traveled to Austin to advocate for policies that reflect the city's priorities, including funding and economic development opportunities. Along with county officials, the legislative trip consisted of meetings with state leaders and agencies to discuss infrastructure, public safety, and water security. And in also looking forward to the future, City Council unveiled the price tag for other long-term plans in a $400 million bond package. Details for May's bond referendum election were finalized at a special called meeting last week. Laredoans will have to vote on the initiatives, which include new police and fire stations, street improvements, and health projects. One council member shares Laredo was long overdue for a bond election and explains what it could mean for your pocketbook.
This is the mechanism that the state has basically forced cities to be in, where we have to do this from time to time. It's been 32 years since the city's done this. If everything were to pass as is, for someone with the median home value in Laredo is $200,000. So if the entire package were to pass, it would have a approximately $16 a month impact on property taxes.
Well, that's where we begin this week's discussion, and joining us today is former City Laredo Mayor Pete Saenz, and of course our panelist, KGNS General Manager Luis Villarreal. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Mindy.
Mayor Pete, it's a pleasure having you join us. I know you've got a lot of insight into a lot of the conversation that we want to have this morning.
Well, thank you for the invite, Mindy and Luis. And as usual, it kind of brings back good memories.
Good memories.
Well, we hope they're good memories.
Well, we hope. No, they're always good.
So let's get this one out of the way.
Okay.
Do you miss it? Do you miss it? Do you miss?
Sure, to a certain extent I do, but I'm enjoying this phase of my life now, with my own personal business and, of course, a family. Yeah, but I enjoy, these kind of visits when called upon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you've remained active in the political scene. I know we've seen you out and about at different rallies and different events, which is why we wanted to invite you to be on Beyond the Headlines, because we know that you still have your finger on the pulse of what's going on. So on that note, we want to ask you what you think of, the first 60 days of President Trump.
As a conservative and my way of thinking, my lifestyle, it's amazing. It's truly amazing what this man has been through, gone through, survived, and now doing what he's doing at such an amazingly fast rate. And he's out there. I mean, he's totally out there. It seems like every day he's got a conference or some activity, especially with the press. I mean, what a contrast, I guess, if compared to the last 4 years or so. And I respect the offices as a mayor too. I mean, I've always said that you kind of adapt to a certain extent with who's in power, and you have to work with people that are in power. The Biden administration, when he was in office here in Laredo, we tried to do the best we could with his policies, and with Trump as well. But initially, when Trump was president, I was skeptical, like many other people. I mean, you really didn't know the man. But personally speaking, I think he's proven himself. I mean, he's really, for Laredo, at the end of his term, fortunately, COVID, hit the U.S., but right before COVID hit, the poverty rate had lessened. I mean, significantly lessened from about 31% to about 19%. Incomes rose, from close to 40 to about 54,000 or so per family unit. I mean, there were significant improvements made to our economy. So I for one, give this man some space, some room, to develop his policies, and I think, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, give him at least a year or so to see what results come out of this. But based on what I see now and at the rate that he's pursuing these issues, he's fulfilling what he promised. Maybe the economy is is not there yet. But then again, it's 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see where time takes us.
Well, speaking of the economy, Mayor, let's talk a little bit about city, what's going on with the city right now. You know, just last week they decided on $400 million. When you were the mayor of the city, did you all have a bond election of that size or anything near that?
No, there was an attempt to have some sort of a bond election with the convention center downtown, but of course that failed.
That failed.
Yeah, but no.
Is this something that you think is needed
But a bond
of that
election
size?
for the public to decide.
To decide.
Right.
No, yeah, we did. We go out on bonds periodically. We have the capital projects that we have every 5 years or so, and of course we go out for bonds every year. If not contractual bonds, it's these revenue bonds that we have. But going to the public, again, it's good, I believe, and I think I'm going to quote you sometimes, Mindy, the last program we had some time back, you said that some of these bond issues shouldn't go to the public because they're so needed that the public may turn them down. And that's always a question or a risk that we take as public figures or people in charge of government. But I think it's very fair now that we're going out for the voter to decide. Personally speaking, I think these projects are needed. It's long overdue, and the people will decide.
My contention has always been that it's not a matter of whether these bonds or these funds are needed. It's whether or not things are being done in other areas to use the efficiency word that is being thrown out, right? I mean, is city government operating efficiently? And is it necessary to go through this process when it might be a better option to cut some fat and to, maybe make things more efficient? And I think that's where you start getting into trouble, because I don't disagree. There are some sadly and badly needed projects.
Definitely.
But people say, well, yeah, I get that, but you're wasting all this money on this. And so why do we need to ask for money for this when we have all, these places? And that's when I think we start getting into trouble, because then you start protecting turf, and you start protecting your job, and you start protecting your interests. And I think that's at the heart of what's happening in governments everywhere, not just in our city government.
Right. There was a comment made by, in an interview that we had done with Councilmember Tyler King, who was kind of annoyed, if I can use that word, because they wanted to have maybe some wants and needs placed in this bond election. He was hoping for a rec center in his district, which is only one of two that doesn't have one, but it was denied because it's not a need, it's more of a want. How do you even balance that, Mayor? How do you even, will the public go out and vote when there's really nothing that they could see or utilize themselves?
Yeah, there's a misconception, I think, with the public too, and I get your point too, Luis. But certain items, say for example, a building cost to build, you truly can't.
You don't have money to pull from.
Yeah,
you
need that big money, that bond money, to actually purchase or build or construct or whatever. Items like that, I think you truly need that. Now, I agree with you. I'm also conservative fiscally, and we reduced the tax rate when I was there, and then it continued going down, and now they want to raise it up to about 10 cents, where it was basically when I got in, which is about 63, 64 cents for debt service, but that's the distinction I wanted to make. Certain things you can save every year and apply it.
But you're not going to raise enough money.
To do
the big
projects. Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, I would say water. Now keep in mind that's a totally different category, and I think water rates will probably be going up, if not this year, next year, or whenever, because we have that issue now.
We need those new
pipes. We've had it for a while. So we need to replace those lines, and of course we need to work on that secondary water system. It's too expensive for us locally. I still feel that way, but hopefully now that we have that potentially that water source through Legacy, people there just north of Laredo, maybe the cost won't be as much, but it's still going to be significant.
Right.
So we need to prepare for that, and hopefully council will move quickly on that, because we have droughts, frequent droughts.
So
It's scary.
I don't know if either one of you can help me kind of wrap my head around this. So the bond goes to the voters as a package, and then each individual item needs to be approved by the voters as well? Or once if the voters pass
The whole thing
the whole
passes,
thing,
400 million.
we're in, and the city can start spending money or start using it or start raising it or whatever it is
Yeah,
immediately?
personally, I haven't seen the ballot, and I missed that last meeting, but
Right.
I suspect that it's going to be line items.
Line items?
Yeah, and I think
Project by
that-
project, I believe.
Right.
So it's not an all or nothing kind of thing?
I don't believe it is. We haven't seen the structure of it as of yet, but that's what we have heard them talk about voting project by project. But
Gotcha.
yeah, but still pending as far as the information that has been distributed to the public and to the media. So,
Also, too, I think the streets, I think we truly need to get after our streets. You all would also agree that,
Yeah.
they need repairs. We need new streets as well, infrastructure, of course.
drainage, things like that.
No, well, yeah, the water issues, I mean, that's a given. We need personally speaking, I would like to see 2 or 3 crews out there replacing those water lines. I think we're moving kind of slow.
Kind of slow.
Slow, and that puts us at risk. Anytime there's a break in the line, there's a potential risk for contamination, and then boil water notices and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
get after it. Get these bonds, get 2 or 3 crews, replacing water lines and sewer lines, whatever we need to do,
Yeah.
and then work on. That for me is a given. It's so needed, and of course the secondary water system. Now the streets as well, and of course the safety issues. The police station.
They're saying that they have outgrown that police station, that when it was built for 300 officers, and now they have about 700 officers all cramped into a 300-person building. Was that something that you saw as well when you were
Oh,
there?
absolutely. I mean, I could tell that, even then when I was mayor, we needed more space. So we're growing. It's a growing city. There's expenses for all of that. Building construction expenses are high. We can all attest to that. So it's normal, in other words, to expect high-priced items.
Yeah.
On a personal question, or not personal, but I would like your perspective. We had a new city council. We have, a year into the new administration with a city manager, a little bit over that. How does it look from the outside to you? Are we making progress? Are we moving in the right direction?
No, I think we are making progress. My concern always was the ethics, to try to raise the bar on that issue. I think we've made some progress there, I think, and my posture all along, and I live my life that way as best as we can, is once you get your morals, your ethics straight, get that backbone there, the rest kind of follows. It may take a little time. But
seems like there's always factions, always two sides that are voting constantly against each other. How do you, as the former mayor, how do you work with two different ideologies, because that's sometimes what it boils down to?
It is. It's basically philosophy. My philosophy was very conservative, and of course that's who I am, and I see that too there in a way. But it goes back to the electorate. I always say, elect the person that you feel can best represent you, and that's what we have now. I think now we have a 6'3" or
depends on who you ask. Could be 3'6".
or 6'3".
That's where we
3'6". Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, but I think overall they mean well. I think their motivation is good, and that's really what
It's healthy.
It's healthy. Yeah. No, compared to the way when I first went in, it was kind of very different.
On that note, We're going to be right back. We're going to take a really quick break, but we're going to come back and continue talking about that. So when we do come back, promises made, promises kept. President Trump campaigned on border security, making it his key focus of his presidency. We're going to break it all down for you, his policies, the support, and the pushback that they're receiving at home. Right after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Well, it was the first set of priorities to define the Trump administration before the ink was dry. Border security. In a slew of executive actions, President Trump's day one priorities included designating an invasion at the southern border, forbid catch and release, and designate cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, among other actions. In just the past few weeks, more developments at the border. At least 300 Texas National Guardsmen are expected to make their way to the Laredo border sector, with an agreement made with the federal government authorizing soldiers to make immigration arrests on state orders. Administration were a sign of things to come. Some Laredoans were happy the 45th president didn't skip a beat as the 47th president. Nearly 24 cars and motorcycles took part in a Trump-trained rally earlier this month, with some coming out to support ICE, Border Patrol agents, and Trump. Now, while some Laredoans were proud to support the president, others strongly opposed his recent actions, joining protests, including one at the San Agustin Plaza against mass deportations. Protesters waved flags and held signs calling for change in immigration policies. And that's where we're going to continue this week's discussion. We're here with Laredo's former mayor, Pete Saenz. Thank you so much, Mayor, for sticking around with us for our second segment of Beyond the Headlines. Mayor, it's no secret that you have been a Trump supporter. You've spoken about your support for him and of your conservative fiscal views as well. What do you think, first of all, Webb County voted red this past presidential election. What does this mean for Webb County?
Well, it's historic to begin with. I welcome this conservative movement here in Webb County, and of course the border as well. I mean, there's so many other areas. Well, the entire, the majority of the U.S., with a few exceptions, as we know, voted for Trump. Some people consider that a mandate for President Trump. So I think there's a new sheriff, in town and in the country, and he hasn't wasted any time in asserting basically the promises that he made and fulfilling some of these promises.
Do you think it's too much too soon? You think he's going too fast? A lot of fear has been invoked in some folks who are losing their jobs and funding. Some of the schools
are
worried about
until somebody loses their job,
right?
It's like, let's fix things. But don't come after my job.
Well, I know that our school districts have large federal programs, that take care of kids that have social needs and things like that, and they're worried about losing their federal funding with the possibility of closing down the Department of Education. I mean, are you just worried, or are you worried that he might be doing too much without looking into down the line ramifications?
It may be too much for us, but I strongly suspect that they've actually studied all of this. They've been studying it for years. So to us, it may seem shocking in a way, and I guess it is in a way shocking.
Well, it's shocking because it's not the norm, right? It's not something that's always been done like that, and that's what makes it difficult. But I mean, anybody who's ever been involved in any kind of operation or business knows that, whenever you're going to change something, it's going to be painful in one way or another. I mean,
but keep in mind the change. Why do we have change? Going to education. We're the last, the study was done, we were 40th of 40 nations or whatever in education. There's got to be change.
How is that working for us? Right?
And then the expense, just on that notion alone, I mean, people ought to say, we got to do something different.
Right.
So let's try something different, allow this way of change to occur, and then we can complain or argue.
My only problem, and obviously, I don't know that I would call myself a Trump supporter. I am a conservative, and I tend to agree a lot with the policies and things that are going on. But I've always thought that one of the results of all this polarization of our, government right now has diverted the attention from the real enemy, which is the government, regardless of whether they're conservatives or liberals or whatever. And we've been pushed into these areas where nobody wants to question President Trump because it would be somewhat of it wouldn't be loyal. And it's like, well, your loyalty should not be there. The loyalty should be to our country. And the same the other way around. People who I know are sitting there and says, well, this is really a good thing, but I can't say that because it's going to feel like I'm abandoning, my party or my candidate. And it's like, when did that change? When did we start rooting for one side or the other as opposed to for us? For the citizens, for the country, for the things that are good for us. That's what worries me. I have no problem. I don't want President Trump to go unchecked.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think anybody wants that. Although you hear some people and you feel, wow, these guys are going to approve anything. It's like, well, it shouldn't be that way. We have a systems of checks and balances, and we depend on that. And so to just say, hey, whatever goes, I think that's also dangerous. So to your point, I think it does worry me a little bit. Not that how fast he's going, it's just that, okay, let's make sure that everything is, he's not infallible, and he can make mistakes, and there's got to be a net somewhere.
I wonder if there is somebody checking on him, because we've heard from congressional folks that you're not supposed to shut down, or you can't shut down an entire agency without congressional approval. But who's stopping him from doing it? Because every day we hear that that's
but
what he's leaning towards.
But we do have that check and balance.
And we do have it.
We have the Democrats complaining, and I'm glad. I mean, that's the way it should work.
There should be. Somebody should be pulling from the other side.
So whether it's meaningful or whatever their motives may be, but it's still out there. We have institutions. Granted, there's questions now as to how viable they are, but and we have the courts. Even though they say now he's got the majority or the conservative Supreme Court, but then again, we have the appellate court. So it's going through the process. I mean, this is democracy at play.
And you need to let it play.
I agree. I mean,
it is very frustrating to hear the criticism on on the Department of Government Efficiency or whatever. Doge. It's like, do we not want to know the waste that is going on? Do we don't care? I mean, why is it that are people so upset about somebody telling us, look, all the money that you guys have been wasting? What's wrong with that?
I think the issue is that of the departments that they are just completely slashing, the USAID and some of the other ones that we've heard about. As a lay person, I don't think I've ever known what these departments have done, what they do.
Right.
But now we're kind of hearing things that they're being slashed. Oh, but wait, who's going to take care of, this country or this country or this country? So, it's so much information. Don't know. I think a lot of people don't know what to think of it, and we're just kind of
but
sitting
most of the
back
answers are politically motivated. They're not necessarily sitting there and saying, okay, let's look at it. I mean, are we really spending this money on this? And, as a taxpayer, as an American taxpayer, hey, I'm a good man. I think people deserve help, and I'm glad to go help or whatever. But if we have priorities and we're spending money outside of our country first, when those monies could be better spent, why is it wrong to look at it? Why is it wrong to analyze that and say, hey, is it really necessary for us to be spending this money?
And I think that's really the question. What is the end game here?
Right.
Accountability.
Accountability at the end of the day.
Now, the process may get tangled up and all sorts of things. That's fine. We can correct it later, but let's see what's
That's
right.
Let's see it.
Let's check it out.
Absolutely.
And if there's any amendments or corrections to it, we'll do it then. And then the consequences will be attributed to whoever's right or wrong.
We can't just say, we need change, we need help, we need this, and then when we start doing something and say, well, no, we can't. We're like, well, wait a
No,
second.
we'll adjust. I mean,
Let's do it.
The Democrats will make sure
They'll
that we
keep
adjust.
with the magnifying glass. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate having you. Mayor, it's been a pleasure having you on Beyond the Headlines. We appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we take a look at that one thing we cannot stop thinking about. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. But, you know, we typically have a one thing, but today we just thought it was appropriate for our cumulative one thing to be all about heat wave. He is celebrating his 45th anniversary with KGNS. He started on the show on Valentine's Day, February 14th in 1980. So from all of us here, Heatwave, congratulations on 45 years.
Congratulations, Heatwave.
Heatwave, congratulations, true Laredoan.
Absolutely, and we don't know what we would have done these last 45 years without Heatwave being a part of us and keeping us in check when it comes to weather, so we appreciate you, Heatwave. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Beyond the Headlines. We will catch up with you next Sunday for another issue of Beyond the Headlines. Until then, enjoy your week.